Great. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So here at the Tranel Financial Group, we do like to start on time. It's one of our core values for that. So welcome to the virtual classroom today, Unlocking Your Financial Freedom. So I have Jeff Beck here. Jeff Beck has worked in the financial institutions for 7 years?
Over 7 years.
Okay, so he is the direct liaison at Great Lakes Credit Union. So you've probably seen his picture around if you pop. He used to have a giant cardboard cutout of himself at multiple different branches as well. So you might have seen that around. So this is Jeff. He is a financial advisor. So he'll be the professional that'll be talking through some of this today. So Jeff, why don't you introduce yourself?
Thanks. I've been working here at the Tranel Financial Group for a little over 7 years now. Oftentimes people ask how I got into this role and into this industry. And really, it was just as simple as I was good at math growing up. That was really one of the only subjects that I actually enjoyed, mainly because I was good at it. But money always intrigued me. I like saving money when I was growing up, counting money, things of that nature. And then fortunately, I did an internship with the Tranel Financial Group. Yep.
Okay.
In college. So I was at Lake Forest College.
I
did have hair then, yes, a little more than I have now. But did an internship here and obviously really saw what this team was all about and the company's all about in general. Working with our clients to make every day amazing, right? Make their financial plans happen, unlock their financial freedom, of course. Loved all of the stuff I saw here. So after I graduated, started working here, and yeah, been here ever since. So it's been a great journey. And
a lifer.
Yeah, exactly right.
That actually is uncommon, right? People a little bit younger.
Yeah, definitely.
Talk about the Tranel Financial Group and move our image up a little bit. The Tranel Financial Group. So the Tranel Financial Group has actually been located in Libertyville since 1988. We actually used to be in downtown Libertyville and worked our way a little bit more north. We actually used to have one of the Great Lakes Credit Union's location here as well. We used to share a building, which was a great partnership as well for that. So if you're in Libertyville and you've ever gone past our sign, you've seen that, and it's a partner of Great Lakes Credit Union. So that's been exciting to be here, right? We have a great community presence. We're part of multiple chambers. We love to give back to the local areas as well. So anywhere just surrounding this area, you probably have seen us in there. We directly partner with Great Lakes Credit Union for the past 15 years. We also partner with North Shore Trust and Savings as well over in Waukegan. The Tranel Financial Group currently manages just over $500 million in assets for our clients as well. Jeff manages a large book of business too, so he's a great person. If you guys have any questions about anything, please feel free to chat in. We'll have the chat up the whole time too, so if you have any questions on something, we'll make sure we answer those questions.
Over these last 7 years that I've been working here, right, what we've noticed is there's a problem that occurs with people and money. Right? As we're all human beings, right, we all have emotions, and oftentimes our emotions tell us to do the opposite of what we should when it comes to our finances. It's a problem we all have, right? We all have emotions. There's nothing wrong with that. But if it is telling us to do things we shouldn't be doing, right, that can create a bit of a problem. And so one of the things, I love a quote from Warren Buffett, right? Most people have probably heard of Warren Buffett, one of the greatest investors of all time, right? What he says is to be greedy when others are fearful and fearful when others are greedy.
Love that.
And basically, right, all that's saying is do the opposite of what most people are doing, because most people are acting on emotion and therefore acting in a way that would not be in their best interest. So when we look at what we call the emotional roller coaster, right, that we all go through. And we could look back at this chart, and we could use many different time periods in history, right? We could just use last year during the pandemic.
Oh, absolutely.
Right, market was very hot. Everything was going very well. You can picture as we're on that upslope at the beginning there, everything was great. Felt like nothing could go wrong, right? People might have been saying, is there going to be a recession at some point? But really, there was no indication of that.
Right.
And all of a sudden, COVID happens. At the beginning of March or so is when it really kind of picked up. And the market starts to slide a little bit. And before we know it, right, it's down about 40% in a 30-day window.
Right.
And obviously, that's the large slope we see down there.
That's emotional.
Very emotional, yeah. We had, more clients or more meetings in that month than I think we've ever had in the firm's history.
Yeah.
Just how many meetings we had with our clients, talk them through that and figure it out. Well, at that point, right, people are so scared, hence why we had so many meetings. A lot of people were considering selling out of their investments, right? They're saying, I can't lose any more money. I need to get out of my investments, go to cash, something safe. But as you can see, right, that's the greatest opportunity. That's exactly where Warren Buffett would say, if everyone's scared and getting out of the market, you want to be getting into the market, right? Or if you're in the market, stay in the market. And what we saw, right, was one of the quickest recoveries then from that big of a dip that we've ever seen in history as well. So it's one of those things for people who acted on emotion, sold out of their investments, went to cash, they missed that swing back up, right? And we saw the market go past where it was before it and hit new all-time highs very shortly after that. So it's just a great example of market, right, moves a lot.
Absolutely, yeah.
Our emotions come into play. We have to try and do our best to keep those in check and make sure we're making sound decisions when it comes to our finances.
That sounding board, you have questions before you enact on anything. You ask that financial advisor, and that's really the method that you are.
Exactly right. Yep. So we have some principles here that we're going to talk about. And just briefly before I get into those, I just share this brief picture of the money life cycle. And really what that is a different picture for all of us and where we're at in our financial lives. So you might be just getting started, building your wealth. You could be running out of money potentially. Hopefully you're somewhere in between there, building a legacy, doing something you find to be positive. But the point is we're all in different positions and we're all probably on different spots in that chart. The three core principles that we're about to go through can be effective for any person, regardless of where you fall on that. So the three core principles, what we're here for.
I'm ready.
So the first one is know how to spend money to save money, right? Know how to spend money to save money.
You don't hear that phrase very often.
No, you don't. Most people think, of course, that if you're spending money, how are you possibly going to save it, right? And so when we mean by that, right, is making sure that we're doing smart things with our money, even when we're spending it, so that we are actually saving money long term. Right? When we think about that, before I go into more detail on exactly what that means, we see oftentimes that people who don't know how to do this, right? They might be paying more in taxes, is a big thing, right? No one likes taxes. I hear that all the time from our clients, hate paying taxes. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to have less money. You definitely don't want to run out of money, right? We saw on that life cycle, someone spending down their assets. You don't want to have less money or run out of money at some point. You definitely don't want to deplete your portfolio. That can happen if we don't know how to spend money in order to save money. So what we say is what we want to do is put solutions in place that we know how to spend money to save money, and therefore we pay less in taxes. We don't have to be scared on a regular basis that we're going to run out of money or we will deplete our assets or things of that nature. So let me take a minute here just to share a story with you about some clients that I work with. Tom and Pam, they came to me. This was probably 3 or 4 years ago now that I started working with them. And they were essentially in this position. Pam was incredibly scared of the market. Right? So again, talk about those emotions coming into play.
That's common.
Yeah, very common. Yep. She was very scared of the market. So they had a lot of their money just in cash. Right. And even 3, 4 years ago, interest rates were not very good. Right. Obviously, we know where they're at now. But even then, you weren't earning much on your money sitting there. In addition to that, a lot of the money that Tom and Pam had saved was non-retirement funds. So they weren't in very tax efficient vehicles either. So right off the bat, right, you kind of hear those two things. They're not maximizing their potential because we're too much in cash. And we're also not being as efficient as we can by paying extra capital gain tax and things of that nature, not using more tax efficient buckets. And it was just a great opportunity to sit down with them and start to share some different strategies on how they could spend their money to save money long term. They weren't really putting that together and understanding how you can spend money and still save it long term. But again, for those different reasons that we talk about, there were a lot of opportunities for them to maximize their potential, become more efficient, right, and actually be spending money and saving money long term. And that was just really, really neat to sit down with them and start talking through some of those strategies. So when we think about that, right, you think about Tom and Pam and you're thinking about your own situation, right? Do you know how to spend money to save money? Think about,
I think the average answer would be no.
yes,
on
for
that
most
one.
people,
For
right?
most,
And probably because you haven't even thought of that as a question.
correct.
That
Yes,
would be
that's
part of
not
it.
a concept.
Correct. So if you think about that question and you just think about your finances in general, right? If I could ask you to take an action item real quick, if you have a pen and paper by you, write down one thing that stresses you out the most about your finances. So it could be anything, right? Even if it's not necessarily related to spending your money to save money, but what's the thing that you can think of most that stresses you out about your finances? Just jot that down on a piece of paper.
Honestly, for me personally, so Jeff's a salesman, so I can probably guess what yours is for that. But for me personally, I feel like a lot of it has to do with, right, I'm in the stage of having children. And to me, I want to make sure that I have enough assets accumulated for when I have a child, right? And how does that look, right? How am I getting prepared for it properly? How much, it's never a good time to have a child. So, how much money do you need to have a child and that type of thing? And just really being in that stage for me, that stresses me out.
A lot of people would agree with you. I think our next point that we'll get into will touch on some of that a little bit.
Okay.
Right? That could maybe ease some of that stress that you're feeling with that.
Okay.
And hopefully a lot of these core principles will do that with any of the stresses that you guys might have. You basically kind of led me to my stress is just not having consistent income, right? Being in sales position, income is different all the time. So it's something you have to think about your future all the time, right? You can't just assume you'll have a standard paycheck. You have to be planning and budgeting way in advance because every single check you get is going to be different.
Absolutely.
And that's definitely the thing for me that stresses me out the most. So let's move forward to core principle number 2, which is setting up a growth and income bucket and how important that is for your finances. So when we think about doing this, really the biggest point with setting up a growth and income bucket is it's going to organize your finances drastically.
Okay.
Put everything into perspective for you and make sure that essentially every dollar you have, for the most part, except for money we don't want to be a part of this, it has a purpose, right? Really, that's what you're thinking about is saying all this money I'm saving up for, you mentioned having children or buying a house, you want to have these buckets set up so you know exactly what each penny is going towards. When you don't have buckets in place and you're just saving some and spending some, it's really hard to tell what everything's for and are you on track for those things that you want to accomplish, right? Again, you can have that fear of running out of money or not having enough money for something. Yeah, it's a big fear we all have. Right. Again, lack of growth. We have a growth and an income bucket. So there's different purposes for those buckets. You could be someone that thinks you might not be taking advantage of opportunities out there because you don't have the proper growth bucket in place. You think about being in retirement, right? If you're a little bit further on that life cycle we talk about, are you going to have the proper income you need in retirement?
Oh.
If you're making $50,000 in your working years and you need to replace that in retirement, Social Security is only going to get you so far. Right? A lot of pensions are not available anymore like they used to be back in the day. How are you going to supplement that income? Right? What are you going to utilize to do that? And that's where that income bucket can come into play. Exactly right. That's what we do. So yeah, you want to have that security, right? Of knowing you're not going to run out of money, knowing you could give yourself a raise in retirement, right? Picture that you get raises throughout your working years. Imagine being able to give yourself a raise in retirement. It's not only something that's kind of neat, but it's very important with inflation, increase in taxes, cost of living, all that kind of stuff that'll go up. And really, at the end of the day, it just gives you that clarity and confidence that you're looking for with your money. I mentioned having a plan for every dollar you have. It's clarity, it's confidence about your future and where you're going. So tie that back to the clients I just mentioned to you guys, Tom and Pam, when I was sitting down with them, right? So they had some issues they knew about, right? They were a little scared to get into the market, take advantage of opportunities that were out there. This was really important for them. They knew they had money, right? They knew they had some potential to do some really good things, but didn't really know how it was all going to be structured. And therefore how he could potentially retire. Tom worked and Pam stayed home with the kids for all those years when they were growing up. So she never worked. So how could he retire? How could they retire comfortably together and make everything work the way that they wanted it?
Right.
And But one of the really neat things that was cool is, a little emotional as we're meeting with him and going through things. They have all these questions, all these concerns, right? So a lot of emotions, a lot of fear in it. And one of the awesome things when we started putting their plan together and putting a growth and income bucket in place, I remember still to this day, the first meeting we sat down, they were, normal couple, kind of playfully fighting, doing their little banter. And one of the things that Tom had mentioned was he wanted to buy a motorcycle. He used to have one a long time ago, had not had one for years. And that was something he'd really love to do. I think it might have been a trike even. But that was just something he really wanted. And right away she says, no way, we cannot afford that. That there's just no way we can do it. And really it was just because they didn't know what they had and how it would all work together. And so we put the plan in place, right? He was fortunate enough to have a pension and Social Security. He was a Navy vet, so he had some income sources, but we still needed to supplement a little bit of that income, right? And make sure that some of that money was set up to grow long-term to maximize some of those opportunities. And I want to say it was definitely after the first year we started working together, maybe a year and a half or so after. And I get a picture, via email, they send over to me, but Tom's sitting on his motorcycle.
There you go.
And sent it over to me. And you could just see the smile on his face, right? And then how proud he was that he could do it.
Yeah.
How happy that she was. She took the picture, right? If she was mad about it, I don't think she would have taken the picture. She probably would have said, take it yourself. So the fact she took the picture, right, knew she was on board with it. She felt comfortable, right, when we sat down and put the plan in place that we'd be able to make this work, right? Every dollar had a purpose, and they were able to do that. So it was a really, really neat story to see when you start implementing these strategies, how it actually comes to fruition and helps people reach their goals that they're looking for.
Awesome. Good for them.
Yeah, it was very exciting. So when you're thinking about your finances, right, I'm going to ask you to take another action item here.
Okay.
So you're thinking about your finances, and we're talking about organization here. How organized are your finances on a scale of 1 to 10? 10 being perfect shape, no questions, no concerns. And
no one better write down a 10.
And 1 being you have no idea where anything's at, how much money you have in life, etc.
My husband would probably give me like a 3. I would give myself like a 6 or 7. Maybe that's being generous. Split the difference. 5 or 6.
I know your husband, and yeah, he might give you a 3. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, 6 or 7. So I would guess a lot of people fall somewhere in the middle there, right? You probably don't want to believe you have everything figured out. So most people probably wouldn't say a 9 or 10 or anything. But there's always room for improvement, even if you feel like you are in a good position. But I think a lot of people would be somewhere in that 3 to 5 range.
Yeah.
Just knowing that there's a lot of things you're unsure of, right? You don't necessarily have a plan for all this money that you have accumulated. So I think that's pretty standard for people. Even as an advisor, as plans change and do things, I think for me personally, if I was to say I was a 7 or 8, I'd feel pretty good about. Again, I think there's always room for improvement.
You are a financial advisor, though.
Correct. I am a financial. So I should be in good shape, but that doesn't always happen.
That is true.
Right?
Just like teachers, right? Don't always like to go home and be teachers at home. Yeah.
Exactly. So keep that in mind, right? Whatever you wrote down on there, right? Just keep that in mind. And that should be a good starting point as you start to move forward and say, how much work do I really need to do, right? How aggressive do I need to be about getting organized with my finances?
Jeff is like a 7 or 8, by the way. He's really good at the office.
Well, thank you. All right. So we're going to jump into core principle number 3, right on schedule. Core principle number 3 is know your financial independence date. Know your financial independence.
Okay.
So that's
I'm young, so I don't know that.
Yeah, which is okay, right? And obviously relative to your age, I think, that's a fair point, right? If you're 20 years old, you're probably not going to have that.
I'm older than 20.
She is older than 20, but you're not going to be thinking about that. And it's almost too hard to know because you haven't even developed enough of a plan.
That's a fair point.
To truly know what your independence date can be.
What age frame, if I can interrupt you, should you really start thinking about this date?
Yeah, I think, somewhere between probably 35 and 50 on the high. 50 might be a little late to not have an idea.
Okay.
But yeah, even like I said, at 35, right, it kind of depends how much work you've done to that point.
Right.
There's a lot of figuring out that date is where are you now? So what have you done to this point? what are we going to have to do up
Mhm.
until your financial independence date, and then what can happen after that.
Okay.
So
Good to know.
I would definitely say by 35, you should be having a pretty good handle on when this date can be.
Okay.
And the date can, of course, vary, right? Because things can change.
Right. There's outside factors to get that.
So maybe you calculate it and you say it's this certain date, but if you start changing something, saving more money on a regular basis, that date can become a little closer to you.
It's a financial plan. It's a living plan. It's a living date.
Living, breathing document. Yep, exactly right. So one of the big reasons this is important, right? I think some of these are probably obvious to people, but the main reason why it's important is missed opportunities, of course, can happen, right? How many people we've seen, and I'll share, how this ties in with Tom and Pam again, just because they fit all of these different core principles. But right, plenty of people work longer than they really need to. And a lot of people don't necessarily enjoy work, which I'm guessing is not a surprise to Lon. We enjoy work, of course.
We love work. We're here at 6:30 on a
That's right.
Wednesday.
But a lot of people don't. They miss out on a ton of opportunities because they don't know they can stop working, right? They don't know that financial independence state. So that also then you're missing opportunities. You regret a lot of things that you didn't get to do, right? Because you didn't think you could do it. A lot of people feel trapped, helpless, those kind of things, right? You just have that feeling of the unknown, that clarity and confidence is lacking because you don't know that. And so we don't want people to miss out on those opportunities. We don't want you to have regrets. We want you to be in control.
Right.
We want you to feel confident about your future. And again, if you don't like the date, we can always change it, right? There's things that you can adjust in your plan so you can change the date, right? If it's saving more money, right? If it's spending less money, spending more money efficiently, right? Spending money to save money, right? Things of that nature. And you just want to have that freedom, right? It gives you the freedom. It gives you the power if you know what that date is. So going back to Tom and Pam, like I said, one last time, one story for them, right?
These people.
They're a great couple. They're great to work with. But as I mentioned, right, Tom was in the Navy, so he had done that. He had retired from there. He was working at a large corporation in the area. And again, he's one of those examples of didn't really love his work. Knew he had to work, right? Had to make ends meet, pay the bills for the family. His wife stayed at home, as I mentioned. So he was going to be ready to retire whenever he really could. But again, that fear was there that they didn't know if they would be able to make it. Didn't know if he could buy his motorcycle. Didn't know if all these things could happen. And that was just because they didn't know the financial independence date. So I mentioned right after we got together, we started working together, and he did retire about 1 year. I think it was a little less, about 9 months after we started working together. And as I mentioned, right, a year and a half later or so, he got the motorcycle. She's feeling confident about their plan, that they're going to be able to make retirement last and enjoy retirement the best way possible. And it's just a great story to see that, because he probably would have continued to work. It's a very, maybe a little nervous, if you will, right, about their future. Which is totally fine. But I don't think he would have felt comfortable retiring without knowing his financial independence date, right? Which, of course, I think that's a good thing, but he should have known that date sooner, and he could have possibly even retired sooner based on when his stuff worked. That's why he worked about 9 months longer once we started working together, but he would have retired much sooner, just had he known that he had the ability to do so, right? And so you hate to see those stories where people are working too long, missing out on these opportunities, not enjoying their life. You work so much of your life. It's awesome to finally one day not have to work and have that freedom to do anything you want, which is really neat. So when you think about that, this last action item is going to be very simple. Probably don't even need to write it down. Just simply, do you know your financial independence date? You ever figured that out?
You know my answer. No.
Yes, we know that. That's okay.
Honestly, right? Most of our the prospects that come in, and even clients in the first couple of meetings, right? They don't know.
No.
They don't know what they don't know. And this is why they're seeking out a professional, right? A financial advisor who's able to help them with that.
Exactly right.
I forgot to throw this in, but if y'all come and meet with us, we actually do draw growth and income buckets on the board, and money going over when one gets too high and things of that nature. It's actually pretty cool. I love walking by the office and seeing you guys on the boards.
Yeah, we do a lot of drawing. It's a little easier to comprehend.
Oh yeah, depict, absolutely.
So if you don't know that date right now, it's something we can help you find. Of course, that's one of the main things that we do is help people find that financial independence date. And then, like I said, once we find out what that date is, if we don't like it, we can look at the different options and how we can change that date. Right. If we don't like it, it means we probably want it to be a little bit sooner. Most people aren't wishing to push that date back. So we put together different plans and strategies on how we can make that date closer to where we are at now, which is huge. So those are the 3 core principles.
That was a lot, Jeff. That was good. That was a lot, but that was good. That's
a lot of information. We got a few minutes here to finish up. So just I'll recap real briefly. No, that's fine. Right. First principle, know how to spend your money to save your money. Everybody wrote down, hopefully, the thing that stresses them out most about their finances. So think about that, right? Keep that item in mind. And if it's something that's stressing you out that much or keeping you up at night, right, let's fix it. Let's do something to get rid of that stress. There's enough things going on in our lives stressing us out. We don't need it to be money all the time. Core principle 2, right, set up a growth and income bucket. Right, so just think of Tom and his wife, right, and getting that motorcycle, me seeing the picture of them, right, just organizing their finances, having a purpose for every dollar as a part of their plan, right, makes a huge difference. And to see people start achieving their goals because they put that plan in place is very exciting. And lastly, core principle 3, right, know your financial independence date. You don't know it now, let's figure it out. Let's see when it is. And again, if we don't like it, let's change it. And we can do all that stuff. So those are the principles that we wanted to talk about today. We appreciate you joining us here today.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, we know it's after hours, so if you're working, if you have kids at home, whatever it is, a TV show on that you wish you're watching, you're doing this instead, right? We appreciate your time and joining us here. So we have a couple gifts that we wanted to share with you guys. First and foremost, we have a couple books that our firm has written. Specifically our CEO, Rock Tranel, with a couple other advisors here. So we have the Sunny Side Up book, as well as 8 Things I Wish I Knew Before I Retired.
And that's client, like, testimony book, essentially, right? We've taken them from clients and they've given us their feedback. This is what I wish I knew before I retired.
You got it. The Sunny Side Up is a little more strategy based, right?
Absolutely.
Some concepts and strategies that we go through. 8 Things I Wish I Knew is more story based on actual clients that we've worked with and helped through retirement. So both are phenomenal books. If you're interested in receiving either or both of those books, send me an email to the email on the screen there, jbeck@moneyconcepts.com, and we will send you a book. So you need your address, send your address over, and we'll send you a book. So that's the first gift. And the second gift, like I said, you guys have spent already a good amount of time with us here. What I've done is I've set aside some time on the calendar over the next couple of weeks, specifically for the people attending this webinar, you guys here. Set aside some time for you guys to get together and meet. Right? In today's world, I know there's a lot of things changing. We're still working through this COVID pandemic. So if we want to meet in person, we can meet in person. So we can meet here at our Libertyville office, as we went through already. Any of the Great Lakes Credit Union branch locations, we can meet at those as well. If you prefer Zoom, phone calls, anything like that, we can do it.
We'll meet you where you are.
You got it.
So Jeff, we just had a question that just came in that I'd like to answer live. So someone had just asked, is there a set fee or is it depending on your finances? How does that work?
Yeah, great question. So it does depend. I love to be able to give a very straightforward answer. Right? I know people are looking for something concrete. Unfortunately, it does depend on the type of planning that we would do.
Of course.
Right. And potentially the different investments we would utilize if we are doing investment management as well. So generally the planning side, we can put together a financial plan for someone. Usually it can run from $1,500 to $2,500 for a financial plan. Again, that does just depend on the complexity of your plan,
of course,
how often we're going to be meeting, things of that nature. So again, I can't give you a specific answer, but somewhere in that range generally for a financial plan that we'd put together. And then on the investment management side, like I said, if we're actually doing that part of it, again, it does depend on the types of vehicles and products we may use. But generally, we have a management fee that can be somewhere between 1% and 2% if we're managing those assets directly. So that is a great question. I said, sorry, it can't be more specific, but those really ranges, will give you an idea at least of coming in. So if you set up this time, right, like I said, we got some time set aside for you. Give us a call, shoot me an email, put meeting in the subject. We'll definitely get you on the calendar. And basically, as we start going through that planning stuff, right, the very first meeting is complimentary. So definitely know that
Awesome.
first.
Yep.
As far as the fee goes, we'll sit down, we'll get to know you, we'll get introduced. We'll figure out where you're at, where you're looking to go, what you want to accomplish. Once we have all that information, we'll tell you exactly what the fee is at that point. And at that point, you can decide, obviously, if you want to go ahead with the plan or if you choose to do something different. So very first meeting is complimentary. Like I said, we got plenty of time set up for the next couple of weeks for anyone on the webinar. Give us an email or give us a call, and we'll be more than happy to set that up for you.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jeff, for this great, this was an awesome half hour. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out. We are a great resource. Again, you'll see us around at Great Lakes Credit Union. Please feel free to say hi to us. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys. Good night.
Thank you.